You are listening to the Joyce Aldrich Show from Toronto, Canada. Paranormal and UFO Edition. Yes, we call them UFOs.
Les Paul and Mary Ford with The World is Waiting for a Sunrise, and I do believe the world is. And tonight we've got psychic medium Brough Perkins, and you know we're recording this on December 24th, and it is 12/24/24. That's magical. That's a 12/12/12. Bro, you're here tonight to give us some prognostications, I believe.
Hello, my goodness. I didn't even think about that.
I saw it today and went, 12/12/12. You know? Yeah, well, 12/24/24. It's all 12s, right?
Wow, that's so true. Yeah, yeah.
So I thought
nice to be here.
Yeah.
And I have to confess, we were supposed to start recording a little earlier, but I fell asleep while making turkey. You're supposed to fall asleep after eating it, not beforehand, but I got a little ahead of myself, said the psychic.
Well, I have to say that your dedication to this program is immense. For you to have to leave your turkey on Christmas Eve to do this program, I'm impressed. So it's all good. No, it's all good. You know, and you are someone who readings aim to heal the past and the present, setting your future free. So, boy, oh boy, we could sure use a bright future. And like they were talking about, you know, the world is waiting for a sunrise. It's been so dark. So, I'm going to let you flow with whatever you have and then let you go back to your toiki and dressing that you did. You should see the picture you sent me, listeners. Oh my gosh. I'm jealous. It's a beautiful, you're a wonderful chef. It looks like a beautiful turkey dressing.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
I do love it. It's therapeutic for me. I love cooking.
Oh,
it's
yeah.
always been a thing to do.
Well, I love eating. Go ahead.
A little bit of a reading on the world, the state of the world. You know, we got everything going on. It's almost like you throw a dart. What aren't you going to hit? So, because in honor of the show, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't start with those UFOs, the
drones. Drones over New Jersey.
Definitely.
Oh, and over
And by
Wright Patterson Air Base, they shut that
there,
down for 4 hours. They're all over, actually, all over kind of vulnerable, critical sites.
yes, it's very interesting, and they're cropping up around Europe and
Mm-hmm.
South and everything now too. So, by the way, you're going to hear Moo. She might cough in the background because she's just snuggling up right next to the microphone with me.
Well, my
Uh,
cats right now are sleeping, and that may end soon. I don't know. It'll all be good.
all right. Well, we'll have a cat cast next time. So the drones, I'll tell you. First of all, my psychic sense is that there's not any alien aspect here,
Mm-hmm.
except I think that there was some attempt to make it seem like there was by whomever is launching these. By the way, the whomever part is the United States.
Right.
It's a branch of their military that's launching the drones. Of course, once they realized, well, no, like if they're only appearing in New Jersey, even though we have it so that they're coming in from off coast, it's going to be a little too obvious that it's us doing it to ourselves. So let's launch some in Europe. Let's launch some off other bases or in other territories around the planet that we're occupying. So it's the Americans that are doing it. It's some kind of psyop, is all I can tell you. It's a little bit of a display of ability. So you can almost think of it like a military test demonstration. But I think it's also an attempt to make people think that there's a UFO invasion to distract them from all the other shenanigans right now.
Interesting.
It's so foolish that it's difficult for me to wrap my mind around. You know what it is? It's all of these, and no offense, okay, to anybody over the age of 65. It's this. Everybody in these offices, everybody in these positions right now, they're all older, and they think that this is going to fool people. Like, really? They think that this is going to make people, I don't know, afraid or distracted. People are just irritated. People are just like, oh, these are drones. What's going on here? Why are we doing this? And they just go, we don't know. There is no way that the United States government does not know what these things are, where they're coming from, or can't track them. So it's obviously just a silly game. That's that. It'll all cool off, I say, by February or so. Like, that whole thing's just going to go away and not really be explained by those who were responsible.
Well, so far they haven't. So far, so good for them, I guess.
Yeah, I think some whistleblowers are going to come out next year about it, though, and it's really too bad, because in the actual UFO news front, we do have a lot coming out. I mean, the producer James Fox's new documentary. Now, he did The Phenomena, and the new one is called The Program, and that's just dropped in the States on Amazon. And if you have Apple TV, you could watch it. It's a fantastic documentary, and it goes into all the congressional hearings the Americans are doing about the UFO and crash retrieval programs and everything. So there is a lot coming in the next year on that front. I mean, look, Joyce, can you believe it? I mean, even just 2 years ago, we didn't even have the United States government, for instance, admitting that there were UFOs and that they were tracking them. But now they're admitting that there's crash retrieval programs.
Exactly. And the thing is, I'm feeling vindicated as a person who's contacted by such entities, whoever they are. You know, it's a hard go. I mean, I'm 69 and I was 6 years old when I was contacted, and Bud Hopkins was pretty sure that I had been contacted since birth. And so other contactees as well. It's terrible, you know, to live life like that and not know, because it does change your life. So yeah, that would be very good. And the Pentagon did backpedal, of course, but they're not going to be able to do that for very long. Maybe that's them launching all this to make it look like, well, you know, UFOs don't really exist, but they're drones, you know. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I don't
something
know.
like there's quite a few layers that are piled on whenever they do one of these operations, it's for several reasons, I think,
Yeah.
and all the side effects.
Like testing
But,
the water, testing the water.
testing the water. But I really like your other point just now, which is that idea that now those who were kind of on the fence about it are going to go, oh, well, all of them are always drones because look, you know what I mean? Now they're going to think everything's a drone. Well, that's a good point.
Especially if they know like that they are going to be showing themselves. They'll say, "Oh no! Remember the drone thing? Remember the balloon the Chinese sent over?
Right.
They may just point back to that and go, no." I don't know.
Exactly.
Anyway, so keep going. This is fascinating.
Yeah. So kind of off the topic of UFOs and everything. I was seeing the end to the Ukrainian-Russian war, which was going to be, as far as I could tell, in February as well. Close to Valentine's Day, like middle of February, I was seeing an armistice of some kind. Interesting. I would say armistice. So it's sort of like there's still tension. There's still details to be made out. So what do they say about compromise? It's the solution that neither party is exactly happy with. But at least the war will be ceased, paused. And I do think that it will not continue. I think that that's going to come to a swift end. So as soon as possible. And quite frankly, with all of the sabotage that current regimes that are in control still of the U.S. government and Canada are concerned, Putin is exemplary in his patience. And what a dark day that I have to actually say Putin is doing something admirable, of all people. But these maniacs that have been in office, and it's not them. These are puppets. These people are working for other people. Right now, what we're experiencing and what historians will look back on this period in time as being is a government period. So there are people that are really in control that you don't know. You don't see them. And that they had set the stage to put in power these puppets that they can control. That's what's going on.
That's going to change.
So yeah, they're trying to cause havoc and start World War III before they leave office, and thank God that won't work.
It won't
Putin doesn't do that. Okay. Yeah, we're gonna by the skin of our teeth, my friend.
Yeah, because we do have 2 feet firmly planted on the first or second rung of the ladder of World War III. We're right there.
Yes, we are.
And people don't realize just how close we are. Or maybe they do.
That's very true. Well, some do, but most are in the dark completely.
Yeah.
So anyhow, so there's that. So I'm glad to report I've looked ahead and we seem to skip through World War III. I still see, unfortunately, some sort of a nuclear explosion sometime in the mid-century. Hopefully it's not too soon, but it could be in the 2030s. But that's less to do with Russia, let's say. And that's more to do with a bomb that's planted by a foreign intel agency. I suspect linked to China on some level, but we'll have to talk about that at a future date. But I do still see danger on the horizon, but I don't think it's World War III. That's what's important.
So it's the undeclared wars, well, there are wars happening on, obviously. There are definite wars, but not world wars.
That's right. That's right. Because World War III, as some know, would be the end of civilization. It's Armageddon. It's the end. One country can't launch a single nuclear missile without all the countries launching all of their missiles at the same time. And then it's toast. We're done.
So that's our solace.
It's not an option, World War III, but yeah, that's some things there. But thankfully, yes, we skirt it this time yet again. And I think better days are ahead. And on the forefront of Canadian politics and future and just the body of our country. Again, what we have here is, as I said, a kind of shadow government. So we've got Trudeau hanging on. I predicted that he would leave office or be kicked out somehow before the new year.
Yes.
It doesn't look like that's going to happen at this point, although it's funny because it really came close. And in some senses, perhaps it has happened. But I think he just enacted some other kind of clause where now he can't be evicted from government. So he pulled another dictator kind of maneuver. But he is so done. I mean, it's so bizarre that he's hanging on. Well, not exactly
No,
bizarre.
it's not bizarre.
Power.
It's part. Yeah, it's part of. It's who he is. It's the nature of the beast. Well, he's not a beast, but it's the nature. His nature. It's who he is. His character. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and as Klaus Schwab from the World Economic Forum, which some people will know who that is, but many won't. You can Google him.
Yes.
He said famously that, especially where the Canadian government is concerned, they have infiltrated the cabinets of the world government. So Trudeau and Chrystia Freeland, who recently was fired. How great is that, by the way? Trudeau is a feminist, always about working with women, and all these women that he's been firing in the last couple of years.
Oh, and intelligent women, even though Chrystia Freeland always bothered me the way she talked down to us condescendingly. At least that's what.
Speaker.
Yeah. But the thing is that I was surprised he didn't wear his little pink hat. His to fire all these women. Well, I'm a feminist. Wear my pink hat. Someone should do a meme about that. I'm sure there's one out there somewhere with him wearing his pink hat. Yeah, the ones, they look like little. Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it is. Yeah, it doesn't make any sense, but yeah. So yeah, keep going.
I see. I think Poilievre will win the election next year, and unfortunately, I don't think we're going to see enough economic change. I mean, he's inheriting quite a slew of problems.
Over $60 billion worth to start. Yeah, in debt. Yeah.
One of the concerns I have with Poilievre is he doesn't address immigration. And we need to talk about this as Canadians. We need to start having real adult conversations about this instead of jumping to that woke maneuver of calling someone racist the moment they even mention the word immigration. Mm-hmm. So, even when I was growing up, which is like yesterday to you, I know I seem very young, but, people who came here, including my family, because I'm a first generation, we wanted to be Canadian. We had a desire to be. We had a clear idea of what Canada was and what being Canadian meant. And when Trudeau took office, he said this is now a post-national country, which means Canada has no identity.
And not a country, not a nation. Yeah.
Not a nation. Yeah. And then came this
open borders
campaign. Mm-hmm. Well, even as the borders were opening, he put a concerted effort toward a campaign to declare Canada a colonizing. What would that word be? It's like a colonized place. So it's like, in other words, saying we're an illegitimate country.
Yeah. We're here because we took over a country. Well, I don't want to really go there. I know what you're saying, and absolutely, he's got a twisted, a little bit of a twisted look at it. But we just want to do stick around the predictions and sort of keep with.
Do you see? Mm-hmm. You just said, I don't want to go there. We have to be adults in this country.
Well, I'm not about not wanting to go there. I know what's going on, and people are not blind, like you said. They can see what's going on. And when Toronto is declared the we have our demographic is such that we've got a lot of problems. We've got a lot of anti-Semitism, and of course here on the heels of Hanukkah tomorrow, I'm praying that everything goes well for 8 days. That there aren't any altercations, there's no activity, around our synagogues and schools the way they have been.
Unfortunately, there will be 2 or 3 different incidences, but I don't think any loss of life. Thank God, not this year.
Well, no. But when you shoot up a school for three times, and when in the middle of the night or in the early morning, when will it be like when there's someone in there, But the thing, I'm having trouble talking about it because it's so emotional for me. So I'm gonna stop
Yes.
and let you talk. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
understand.
it's too difficult. It's too difficult. I don't see security guards at church doors anymore. But there's certainly there are security guards and police in front of synagogues and
Yeah.
schools and everything. So it's a little different. Yeah.
Well, in
Anyway,
order to sometimes when making and you've had readings with me, so you can appreciate
yeah,
this. In order to work up to a prediction,
yeah,
I have to set the framework. I
sure.
have to lay out the bedrock here.
That's true. That's true. And I
So,
apologize if I stopped you there.
oh no, not at all. As you said it so eloquently, it is an emotional topic. We care, we care because we are Canadians. That's one of the
Yeah.
big things of being Canadian is we care about everybody. And so said that, I think what we're going to see is an increased number of people waking up to this concept of suicidal empathy. And those two words are not usually
That's
put together.
interesting phrase. Yeah.
Suicidal empathy. And I think what we're going to start to see in this last decade is that our country has had a suicidal level of empathy. And, as it turns out, um, so many of the things that people have been told by the government and those that it's funding have been false, things that there are no evidence for. There have been so many scandals and so many hoaxes. And now the same kinds of laws, although under different names, that the United Kingdom had passed, which are getting little grannies thrown in jail for making a Facebook post. There was a gentleman in England who said something innocuous, like all he said was, "I really would like to see my town not have Islamic flags everywhere." This is a
Yep.
small English town,
Yep.
and he's been sentenced to jail for that,
Mm.
for I think something like 2 years in prison for that. So that same type of law is being enacted here in Canada. They're fighting to have that put into place here in Canada, where the Human Rights Tribunal can take a complaint about you from an anonymous person. So this is already a kangaroo court where it's unjust because it's in our canon of laws that the accused has a right to face their accuser, but not according to this bill, where Bill C-63, which you and I had mentioned before,
Oh
is
yeah.
being fought through. So it makes the worst kind of person that would squeal on their neighbors around COVID because they're having a party for Christmas or for Thanksgiving. It puts that person in charge and gives them a lot of power in society, and that's not by accident.
No.
And so Canada, we're on the precipice where people have to start to write
Well,
in,
yeah.
call local MPs and things to fight these things, because the thing about evil and darkness is that it does not exist in a place like where God's order exists, where I can predict it as a for sure thing. It's an agent of chaos, and that's what it's designed to do. Because if everybody's too afraid to speak their actual mind reasonably, to have a reasonable
Yeah.
conversation,
Exactly.
then nobody will ever say anything. And that's why those laws are being pushed for, so that the government can avoid criticism, because it is corrupt in
Well,
its current.
well, I understand, and I have to go look it up again, but I believe Professor Gad Saad and Jordan Peterson are leaving Canada. They're going somewhere else to live. And Gad
Yeah.
Saad came here from Lebanon with his parents when he was just a child because of the same kinds of things that were happening there. And on the way to Canada, she gave him a Mug and David that he could wear, and she says, "Now you can wear this." But now we're at a point where, I mean, we're encouraged, like I will be lighting the Hanukkah candles in the window of our building because that's what I do every year. And, we're encouraged to wear our our, whether it's a yarmulke or a Mogen David or a chai or whatever, like just to be Jewish, just like a Christian can wear a cross or whatever, or whatever. But it's getting to a point where we may not be able to. Not because we're being told we're not able to, but allowed to, but because if we do, there are those who will take offense and do something, about it.
I grew up in the country, and I've also lived in the big city my entire adult life. And
Yeah.
so I've had the best of both worlds. And at this time of year, I'd take a walk and I'd look at especially the apartment buildings around where I live near Yonge and Eglinton.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas lights, the menorah. I mean, all these beautiful, and it's all of our spiritual faiths that have us celebrating the winter solstice.
Yeah, and there's that as well. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The ones who attack our culture come from a place where there isn't really a winter like that, and their holidays don't really have any beautiful lights. They don't really have celebration. Everything is repression. I'm not even saying which one, because there's
No,
several.
because obviously in India they have beautiful a lot of countries have really beautiful, colorful celebrations. It's not like it's
A lot of them do, yeah.
yeah.
And those are attacked too. I mean, you look at so what we're facing here, and with a prediction around this all is a general consensus and awakening amongst Canadians starting to move forward. Also, I think that after the Conservative government, there's going to be a new coalition formed that will be sort of aimed at representing the people.
Mm-hmm.
And I think a lot of that will be inspired by the Trump government and the subsequent government after that in America. So as you know, Canada often takes its cues from America, or is at least influenced by them downstream about the 10
Well,
years.
it's like they're like our big brother,
Yeah.
So you want to be like Big Brother. Yeah, in a good way, not the big brother that watches you down there. Don't anyone get that confused now? But they are, and I have to laugh. I know people say don't laugh, but when Trump calls Canada the 51st state, I think he's trying to make a point. And calling Trudeau the governor. I don't think people have to realize it's not going to happen. He's not going to buy Canada. And it's not possible. It's not going to happen. And we burnt their White House down once, so they won't want that again. So, but it's a point that has to be taken that, we have to change. Trump is saying, look at yourselves. Who are you? What, it's to make us look at ourselves even deeper. We're Canadian. Yeah, you're not the 51st state. I'm calling you that, but you tell me who you are. He's very astute, and interesting the way he chooses his words. It's never for nothing,
That's a good point. Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to happen, but it sure makes us stand up and take notice again. Oh, and what do we have to do to make ourselves strong and be Canadian and it's not about national pride. It's about practicality. We've got to live. Anyway, more. What?
There were several young, otherwise healthy, promising people who died because they didn't get seen by a doctor in the emergency room. One most recently, a young man named Adam from Montreal, and he thought he was having a heart attack and waited 6 hours in the ER, and then decided to go home and died a day later.
Oh dear, that's awful.
From having an aneurysm. I think an aortic aneurysm or something.
Awful.
So, and I, of course, even a couple of years ago was in the Emerge for 9 hours with some pretty serious symptoms. And a gentleman who was there as well had been there a few hours longer than me, up to 12 hours, still hadn't been seen by a doctor. He had heart attack symptoms, and he signed himself out and left, and was very upset with the nurses. And meanwhile, there seemed to be individuals coming in after I had arrived who got ushered in and seen right away. And these people were all clearly not born in Canada. And so there is a diversity, equity, and inclusion kind of mandate that has gone through our medical system. I call it medical Lysenkoism, because Lysenko in the communist era had all kinds of weird theories. That was the fella who was responsible for believing that if we gave plants, and I'm not even joking. This is literally what happened. He thought that if people were to read marks to the plants, that it would somehow teach them communism, and that if you planted certain crops close together, they'd learn to cooperate and share resources. Anyway, it led to a
Well, I
huge
do
drought.
talk to my plants, and it does help. But I don't know if I'd read marks to them. I sing to them. I talk
Now
to them.
that's an even better point, Joyce.
That's another thing. Listen, do you
Something
see
worth learning.
do you see our medical system getting any better? Do you see all of that changing eventually down the road?
So, in order for that to happen, yes, I do see it getting better, but it's going to take way too long. It's going to take far too long. And it's going to take a lot of uncomfortable work, because the problem is not inherent to the medical system. The problem is we had flooded our country with too many people.
Well, we know that, but
Canada can't sustain this.
No.
And so we have to have adult conversations. And this is, again, back to that same point. So I think that what we're going to see in the flip side of things, when the pendulum starts swinging back to sanity, because it always goes all the way. It is
starting to. It is starting to. We've seen little indications. Yeah.
What that looks like when it starts to swing back into sanity is this idea of people realizing, okay, we are not subjects of the government. The government works for us, and we have to take it back. And that process of taking it back is going to be long and arduous and take upwards of the next 11 years. So that's going to be a whole thing. But along the way, people are going to start to wake up. So that's another thing.
Okay, so it'll take about 11 years. So like a generation, and it's our grandkids that are going to be helping this. My grandkids and my kids, they're going to benefit from this, and as long as something starts to change down the road. So what do you see? There's a lot of I don't know, saber rattling out Korea way. Have you seen anything that way at all?
Yeah, things are calming down there. It's sort of one of those things that's just going to fade back into the background, even in their country. Even after the attempted coup, that was kind of stopped pretty quickly. There are, again, as I said, forces at play. And I think where Korea is concerned, I think a lot of it has to do with China. I think a lot of that has to do with China behind the scenes. And I think that the internal machinations of their country and their politics are people trying to save their own country from those foreign influences, but going about it in a way that's ineffective ultimately. But things are gonna settle down. We're actually gonna have another attempted pandemic, but this time we won't listen. So in the same vein as the Korea situation, you're going to see these little spikes of things where things are going to flare up in the world, and then people are going to go, I'm not falling for it this time.
Well, no, but I'm not playing devil's advocate exactly, but that pandemic was real. That people died, and I'm going to say it like, I have to say, excuse me.
Well, it was a SARS-CoV. Well, in this case, it was COVID-2, but I remember the original SARS from the early 2000s. I caught it, and I was a teenager, and I was a healthy teenager, and I really had never been that sick in my entire life before. It was pretty remarkable to have that freaking.
That was a horrible illness. Yeah.
And many people died. I think then maybe even more people died. Except now the recording metrics and things were odd, and the mRNA technology that people had been given, as I had mentioned in a previous episode, I think with you. We had a lot of side effects, and a lot of people had and still suffer side effects from it, including a lot of early deaths and myocarditis and all that stuff. So what we had was I think everybody knows now that was a lab break. I don't think there's anyone that.
Well, yeah, it was something the United States
the pandemic. Yeah,
cause
the pandemic for sure. Make no mistake.
It was a real thing. It was it really was deadly, and we really did have to take care. And I'm going to be honest with you, I did not mind shutting down. a lot of stuff, and actually the planet replenished itself on so many levels. It was actually a vacation for the planet Earth, to be honest. You know, it wasn't very good for businesses, wasn't good for a lot of things, you know, and it probably plummeted us. It did plummet us into this deep inflation that we have right now. I'm sure I'm not an economist. Anyway, just want to,
This may be where you fire me as your psychic, but
No,
here's
I'm
what I
not. I'm not going to fire you. I'm not going to fire you. I'm just trying sticking to the. We were building up to the predictions and what's coming up, and that's the.
well,
We need the background. I know
there
we need
are
the background, but
you
I
need the breath.
I'm
You need the
very I'm
back.
very careful about going into the certain realms of things because it's almost like just I tend to I don't sit on the fence, but I do tend to go down the middle a little bit more, to try and capture it all, like on some like not exactly generic, but framing it in the norm kind of thing where people can hear it without feeling, oh, that sounds, like, do I listen to that or because a lot of things are hard for people to hear, and it's if there's a way of framing it that people feel, yeah, that
There's
makes sense, that makes
every great
sense.
discovery,
Hmm?
every single great discovery in human history is a minority.
Mm.
Because the person or the small group of people to discover something and to further us into the new frontier were the only ones. If they weren't the only ones to discover it, it would have been discovered already. It would have been self-evident. It would have been
Oh
common
yeah,
knowledge.
and they work on with limited resources and not many people supporting them and believing that what they're saying is correct. And then when they have the eureka and it works, they go, "Oh, that's wonderful. We can do something with that."
Every great discovery is
Mm.
the most unpopular idea because nobody knows about it.
Well, yeah.
So what I'm seeing is there's too much unknown, and it is very easily known if people just open their eyes and look. Now, one of the things in order to be like in a scientific position in life is you go through what's called the rigor of science. You go through the peer review, and you have every single thing that you've done, every step you've taken in your experiment scrutinized by colleagues. And essentially what it is for them to try to disprove you, and it takes a thick skin to be able to do that.
No, that's
So
mhm.
that's where we're at. Is we're at a place where people have to learn to get a thick skin again, and that's the only way we're going to survive this. Because the people that are causing a lot of these problems, they're not concerned with how things are worded. Do you think those people who shot the girls' school
No,
are
no.
concerned with how things are worded? If we're ever going to get past this, again, because there are two levels here. There's a level where I can predict events and outcomes to the date, to the letter.
Hmm.
Those are usually things that are under the purview of the higher good. Let's say God's plan.
Yeah.
But there's this unknown element, this chaos element. And the more chaos seeps in, and the more I try to get close to it, it's like playing the old game of Operation. If you nick the side, I go, "Bah," you hit the nerve.
Right. Okay, I
Like
get it. I get it. Hmm.
I'm trying to pull a thorn out of the lion's paw. And so it does. It requires a sort of trust. Now, um, as I said, there will be another attempted pandemic. Now, what I mean by that
Yeah.
is that, yes, there was a lab break. Yes, there was a virus. Actually, most of the most sophisticated scientists and doctors, including one of the inventors of the mRNA technology, had found out that in this particular case, with the numbers that we see, it would be better to let herd immunity take over and not have this turn into a situation where the government takes essentially martial law. And that's what happened. And that's what is going to be attempted to happen again. And we have to have big conversations. We will have big conversations about the idea of genetic testing, the idea of gain of function research and such. So new laws are going to be enacted, and that's a very important focus. Now, the reason I bring that up is not just simply because it's on everybody's mind to some extent, because actually most people have moved on from that. I bring that up because it's almost as important, if not just as important, as the idea of nuclear war.
Well, it's a different kind of warfare.
Yeah,
I understand
it's a different
that.
kind, and it's coming again, and it's coming again. And there, mark my words, there is corruption at heart there, and it's interesting that there are organizations pressing for unmitigated supersedence of government from the WHO, another one of these corrupt world organizations which nobody voted for, where if they determine that there is a sufficient clause that they can have the authority over our own governments. And that's what people are voting for right now. And people have to pay more attention to that. So that's something else. This is an era where people are going to realize they have to get wise, and they have to have an active role to play in their governments and in the world. That's what I'm saying. And more of that is going to happen. And that's the only thing that's going to save the world.
Well, I think, go ahead.
Yeah, that's the only thing that's going to save the world. And it's going to be a very arduous process. Even just you and I, two good friends for many years, we can't even have a conversation about it, for Christ.
Well, no, I know because we're on air and online, and even in our private conversations, I do come up with what I come up with, and you do with what you come up with, but I tend it leaves you dumbfounded, literally dumbfounded, because you don't know what to say, because nowadays it's very dangerous. So it is. We live in a dangerous world right now, and that's why I just wanted to get some idea. Like, let's cut over to something that maybe. I know it's a terrible thing. Let's go to Gaza and Israel, please. I want to know what's going
on with Gaza. That's right.
and also the Yazidis, if we can help. Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go to something that because you did say last year that this was going to come to an end. I think it was by the summer, but I didn't know if it's this summer, 2025 or 2024 you were talking about.
Oh, it's 2025 for sure. What I just keep seeing over there is warships. I see new warships coming. And so what that symbolizes to me is that the one place where the U.S. and Canada would be doing a good by sending energy and forces to would be that part of the world, to then bring some stability and start to rehash these accords. And that's what I see happening, is these new accords, these new peace accords. And it's going to take some saber rattling. It's certainly going to take that from President Trump will do that. And then I think it's going to be one of the things to rehash the Abraham Accords and to bring back this stability in the region. It'll be something that he is inarguably noticed for.
Well, he's been nominated for, I believe, a Nobel Peace Prize. Has he not been? I think so.
Oh, I wasn't aware of that. Yeah.
I don't know what the heck. I got to Google that. Because I thought he was, but maybe I'm silly. I don't know.
The only person he ever droned. I mean, he didn't kill innocent people at weddings or anything. He droned a military, really a terrorist leader. Meanwhile, Obama, got the Nobel Peace Prize, and all he did was drone. He was like the leader of drones. Unbelievable. Speaking of drones.
Oh, yeah.
So that whole organization, for many reasons, I've turned myself away from. I don't like to pay attention to that because it just seems like a silly popularity contest. But I do see some very interesting things coming in terms of peace. I think we're going to see a world where, let's say, the West, and when I say the West, I'm talking about, yes, many parts of Europe, but even mostly North America. Instead of trying to finagle, cheat, and police the world, be a better example. And the one thing about China, which is interesting, is that they've actually been kind of doing that. They've been building inroads with other countries and helping. Now it's perhaps for some
Well,
nefarious
I
reason.
was going to say that we'll build your roads and your dams for free. Mm. We'll help you with your infrastructure for free, but then again, but maybe it is out of the kindness of their hearts. So, whatever it is, it is. We can't. They're allowed to invest.
Right. It's not out of the kindness of their hearts, but I think it's at the surface level the right thing to do, and that's the kind of influence that we should have without necessarily having ulterior motives per se, except for the fact that when the world does better, everybody does better.
Yeah, well, I understand what you're saying there. We really need
being an example. Yeah, versus being a police force, being an example. And that's what I see a return to from our part of the world. And in terms of generally everybody else's health, I think everybody's starting to become more health conscious, more aware. And I'm seeing people going on, it's almost like a renaissance of taking care of yourself, but not that namby-pamby, the new agey. You and I talked because you had a kind of spiritual store. And so we know those kinds of people, those, and God bless them. They're so kind. They're kind of funny. I love those people, but the tarot card, crystal wearing, slinging. But self-help is not about looking at yourself and feeling bad about yourself or practicing some chant or affirmation. It's about having a really clear set plan on how to take care of your physical body, your mental body, and your spiritual health. And I just see a big return to that with everybody, really. People are waking to that and how to do that. And, like some people are really good. I've always been really good at taking care of my spiritual health, but I was not always so great with my physical health after high school. And I forgot I was in a body, my kind of work, you kind of lose yourself. You kind of get lost in taking care of others. Well, I think a lot of people understand that.
Well, actually, I was thinking about that very thing while you were talking, because I thought, well, yeah, whenever you talk to somebody, it's to do a reading for them about them and about their life and all the spiritual aspects and all the practical aspects and everything. And you give out so much. So I'm thinking when you come onto my program, which is great, and I ask you to do some prognostications, but it also gives you the space, the literal space, to be able to express yourself. And you just don't get that opportunity that often on your own program. Sometimes when you're on YouTube, or Facebook, you do that. But I understand all that. I really do. I do.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, because you and if people want to have a reading with you, they just go to broughperkins.ca. That's BROUGHPERKINS.ca, and they'll get a marvelous reading.
There are some clients who come to me and they have a really great future right ahead of them, and they're in a good space.
Yeah.
And they just want that New Year's update.
Yeah.
They just want that kind of what's next. And I would even say some of my clients who are like going through grief and going through a really tough time after losing someone, those readings are so positive and powerful because when you hear from the dead and they come through with their name and they tell me how they passed away, and there's these things that there's no way I could know. Like for instance, I was doing a reading on stage some years ago on a military base Borden. And this young family comes up and I see this little boy. He looks about 4 years old and he shows me a big smile, but he's got a gap between his front teeth. And of course, Dad takes out the phone. He had just put on his screensaver that morning the picture of his son showing the gap between his teeth to him.
Oh.
The little boy says to me, I told the parents, and this is on stage in front of 400 people, I said, he tells me to tell you that you're still his hero, Daddy. Now, this made this gentleman break down because, of course, his son had choked to death on a grape in his arms, and he saved him. And so it's things like that that are so profound with helping people with grief. But then sometimes I have a client, and not only are they in a, maybe a precarious place, but the next year ahead or the next little chapter for them is going to be a chapter of stormy weather. And I must say, it's a rare case, but those are not the best sounding readings. It's not always.
No, but how do you handle those?
kind of like how we're handling this episode, because the world is in that place right now, Joyce.
Yeah, and it's like on
I am in
tender
an
hooks,
unfortunate
tender
position.
hooks.
Yeah. Unfortunate position of my reading right now. It's a reading where, okay,
Right.
here's how I handle it. Those types of readings, people just want me to say, okay, but just tell me when things are going to be better. And the answer to that is when we get our act together. Because a lot of times life is going to just go from, 50-50 odds of, things get tough, then they get better again, then they're tough, then they get better again. And that's true. But then there are times where a person's life is more tough than it ought to be. And almost every time it's because of self-sabotage. And not always because they're bad or irresponsible or anything, because maybe
Maybe a
they
fear
haven't
of
been
something,
taught.
it's into, some people aren't sure,
Yeah. And I think that's where that suicidal empathy concept comes from. I think right now we're not taking care. And I think that's really the biggest problem. So I see
On
us
that note.
turning that around. And that's
That'd be
my
good.
prediction for the new year.
But that we've got to do a lot of work and be practical as well. I'm hearing that a lot, and getting back to solid values and doing the right thing. Doing the right thing, that's the most important thing, which is all of that.
Yes. Yeah.
Holy
Beautiful.
cannoli. Holy cannoli. It's just, it ain't easy. Yeah, it's true, because, when you ask a psychic like you, psychic medium who is so good at what you do, to come on, and then you tell me this, I'm going like, oh, bro, come on. Geez, don't go down that road. You have to. But it's like, yeah, you have to. So there you go.
Well, we have to
It
look at
ain't
where
it
our
ain't the
minds
yellow
are.
brick. Well, there's a yellow brick road, but on the way, you meet your lions and tigers and bears. Oh my! And then there's a scarecrow and the lion and the Tin Man. They all help. They all got problems.
I think Atlantis is going to be found this century.
Do you think so?
I
Are you sure?
think
Is it one place, or is it a continent?
I think it's one. I
Like,
think it's a central place. I think it's one. It's, of course, it traveled around. That's where all this knowledge about pyramids and things came from. But I think it's going to be off the Azores, under the water. I think it's a
well, but
lost.
they're kind of pointing to that all the time, aren't they?
Yeah. And then I also see, I was saying, I was predicting that the government would come out about the UFOs in the early 2000s, and nobody was paying any attention to me saying that back then, of course. But here it's come true. So I think Atlantis will see. You and I are going to see some of these things coming true, and
That'd be great.
that'd be great. And I think okay, predictions is one thing, and then there's the wisdom that spirit give us about how to, let's say, make changes in our own lives and things, and perhaps that's a show in and of itself at some point. I mean, we're just barely scratching the surface here.
Yeah, and there's also tuning into other people. I was at my chiropractor's yesterday, and one of the people who works there approached me and said that when she talked to me, I talked about losing my lifeline, my cousin Eric, on November 20th, and she had lost her mother in September, and she said, made me tear up, and I said, oh. Anyway, we started talking and everything, and all of a sudden I asked her, I said, what was your mother's name? And she said, Gloria. I said, oh, so you'll have to sing Gloria in Excelsis Deo. You think that's pretty common to say, but she says, oh no, she said, we gave her a little manger scene and it has that on it. And I said, well, she'd like to have lights on it. And she said, yeah, we each have one of those mangers that has Gloria on it. And she said, and we put a flower on her grave and it's lit up. It lights. I said, well, she wants lights on that manger. So, and I didn't know where that was coming from exactly, but it's just like when we have empathy, like the good empathy, not the suicidal empathy, we can tune into other people and feel that what they're going through. I think that's very important.
Yeah, you become a channel because you're clear of all the crap.
Yeah, I had a chiropractic adjustment to this. There's something to be said about that.
And then your eyes start glowing, and you're like an X-Man. You're like you're channeling all of a sudden the universe.
That's right. Well, why not? It does clear the channel. That's fine. Anyway, that's all good. So okay. So anything else? How do you want to wrap this?
Well, people can look into my work if they'd like to
Absolutely.
watch some videos and see some past work I've done with people by going to broughperkins.ca. And of course, you can schedule a reading. Joyce, people lately, and you know how this goes because
what about the people
to me over the years, but people keep emailing me and texting me, bro, I see your wait list is a few months out. Do you have anything sooner? And the answer, just for the record, is always no.
No.
It's no by default. I'm not taking weeks-long vacation here, folks. I mean, it's the holidays. I've taken 2 days off.
Well, we talked about this on another program, and it's always the right time. Whatever the time is that you're going to book, it's the right time. Just don't worry about it. Just go and do it. Live your life and have the reading when it comes up. I've found that.
It's a good sign. That's all I'll say. A busy sign is a good. You don't want someone who's free too soon.
Yeah. Exactly. Oh my gosh. Well, this 2025 today. Well, look, it's a magical day. It's 12/24/24. That's pretty awesome. That is so. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 12s, and 5 times 12 was 60, right? Help me. 60, and that's a 6. I'm just thinking of all the angel numbers, all the different things. I'm going to go a little new age here on you, but that 6 is actually victory.
Good.
It's good. It's all good. Numerologically, we're in a good space. We're in a very good space. So, bro, I'm gonna play something as we go out. I was thinking of playing a little REM.
Oh, I like it.
Do you like it? It's the end of the world as we know it. But I like it because, you know what? It's funny how I choose music for the programs, and it always seems to work out because it talks about pretty much everything we touch base.
That's right.
Oh, my gosh.
Well, it's good because the Independence Day, that original movie, of course, when the aliens were coming, and they had played that song in the movie, so that was great.
Is that what they played? It's the end of the world as we know it?
It was the first scene as SETI had detected the aliens coming around the moon. They played that song. That's right.
Oh my gosh! I remember Stanton Friedman used to call SETI "silly effort to investigate." He never liked SETI, but UFOs are real and they're here. Like, why are you looking out there? They're here. Anyway, on that note, bro, thank you for an invigorating, challenging, and mind-boggling, and really, thought-provoking program. And it always goes that way. And sometimes, I'm going to say, because that's the way I am. Sometimes I have a cancer ascendant, and my Mercury's in Cancer, which means I'm a very I'm a wuss. I'm a wuss.
I think what's going to happen is in the future studio, when I come in person, you're going to have a red button that'll eject me out of my seat.
I swear. Oh no, I'll have you wired. I'll just push the button. You'll go.
That's right. Shock.
I love you. I really do. And I love how we can talk about all this stuff and get it out, and eventually, in all its wonderful ways. So, go eat your wonderful turkey and your beautiful stuffing. I don't know what you put in that, but that sure looked delicious. I never did finish my tourtière, so I'm gonna heat it up again and have my tourtière, and
we have a date in the new year. I believe we're gonna go for some wings and maybe a brewski or something.
That's right. We're gonna head off over to the local pub, and we're gonna have some pub grub and have a long talk. Have one of those pub talks,
I look forward to it, my
I
friend.
look forward to give you a big hug. Anyway, Merry Christmas to you, Joyeux Noël, and Happy Hanukkah to anyone and Lashana Tova, and of course, Happy New Year to everyone. And it's going to be okay. We're going to get through it, but we've got to do some work. So here we are with REM. It's the end of the world as we know it. Enjoy.
sign. Leonard, Brass, Snap, Lenny, Bruce, and Lester Banks. Birthday party, cheesecake, jelly bean, boom. You symbiotic, patriotic, slam button, nap. Right? Right. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. It's the end of the world as we know it. And I feel fine.
You are listening to the Joyce Aldrich Show from Toronto, Canada. Paranormal and UFO Edition. Yes, we call them UFOs.